This is the Queen's Court, a special mini-series from the Wonderland Beyond the Looking Glass podcast, where we've always focused on relationship building, healing, and mental health. This mini-series is no different, but the need is great. The series is for the 92%. The series is for everyday people carrying the weight of what they're seeing on the television and in every breaking news story. It's for building community and staying grounded while policies and narratives keep shifting the blame and setting us back decades. We're naming the gaslighting for what it is and calling out systems that try to rewrite our history and retell our stories and challenge our right to even exist. This is about awareness. This is about community. So yeah, the revolution will not be televised, but it's happening right here, right now, one voice at a time. Because Wonderland is burning down. Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is episode 2 of the Queen's Court miniseries. And this episode, we're going to be focusing on the community organizing advocacy space. So you're sitting with the Queen of Hearts today, and I am accompanied with Nicole and Keisha, who will be supporting as we give you some insight, some information, some support, and some knowledge around certain things going on and things that you can do for yourself and for your community, starting with community organizing. So one thing we have to understand is the institutions aren't going to check themselves. And yes, if you've gone to government civic classes, we do know there's a thing called checks and balances. But I don't know if you've noticed, it's not really working right now. We are actively in a situation where the government, who can't come together to make a decision, is actively keeping people hungry. What do I mean by that? I mean, there are avenues for SNAP benefits to be released, but the leadership is actively fighting against that. So think about that for a moment. Think about that for a moment. We are living in a country right now where people need food. How do I know? Because I've seen it firsthand at food banks and just listening to families and their stories. So we are actively in a situation where a country up into the millions need food. And the president is actively fighting to allow that to happen. Let that sink in. And if you're not sure of who the people are needing this, do your research, because there's misinformation and disinformation going on right now about who the recipient of these benefits are. But when you do the research, you're talking about a huge impact on children. So that's kind of the ground that I'm going to be growing out of in this conversation on how the collective power has to be sitting, standing, working in place of institutional neglect, because that's what we're seeing right now. Every decision-making process, every breaking news story, every pointing of the finger still is not getting us anywhere closer to where we were when the government shut down. It's not getting us any closer to where we were when people stopped getting checks. 0.00. That is the amount multiple checks have been for many people who are still required to come to work. So let that sink in, right? Community organizing is not just about fighting back, because we're not using violence. We're using coordination, we're using compassion, and we're using clarity. But we have to start somewhere. So when I'm referring to community organizing, we have to understand that institutions are not designed to self-correct. If institutions would self-correct, we probably wouldn't be in such a situation we're in right now. It's going to be up to community voices to be those checks and balances and organizing around what we're seeing that is not working. So just to give you some more insight and kind of bring it home with an example, think of somebody who has a job, a federal job, and they're required to come into work. Required, right? But they're not getting paid. That person might be a single parent. That person can no longer pay for childcare. She has to pay for childcare, right? So she can come to work, but she's not getting paid, so she can't pay for childcare. And it's a cycle. What do we do with that? And it's not a short term thing. We've gone into a whole month and there is no end in sight. So, what is it that we can do where we're at? Because for me, being somebody who is, I have to have structure, give me a plan so I can do something. But right now it feels uncomfortable. And I'm gonna ask Keisha and Nicole, like in your experiences and your everyday life to life, are you seeing where this government shutdown, this SNAP benefits being held and people not getting paid, are you all seeing in your own community some impacts of this?
Hi, yes. Hello everyone. This is Keisha. I am definitely seeing the impacts in my community. I work with the school system, and part of our school system has a military base that's connected to it. And so we are getting we have a lot of families that are receiving SNAP benefits, but we also have a lot of families who work with the federal government and is being impacted by the shutdowns that's going on right now. So we are definitely, we have parents who are reaching out for resources. We have parents who are concerned about the upcoming holidays, parents who with different activities that we have going on within our school system are concerned because, of course, that can't be a priority over paying a light bill or a water bill. So, uh, from the district standpoint, we are assisting as many families as possible. There's a lot of agencies that's near us that is volunteering to help with, paying bills, a bill at least for a family, making sure we're providing resources, clothes, food, even when it comes down to gas. So we have some agencies who are providing gas cards to try to help with students. So it is a big deal. So we got a combination of things that's going on with the government shutdown. We have the people who need the resources from the government, but then we also have people who are working and who are mandated to continue to work, and you need your paycheck. Now, the thing about that, I know in life, we always say you want to have monies that's in reserve. Yeah, and that is true. But life happens. I just put a roof on my house this week and had to get an AC unit like within the last month. So, who plans for that? So, when it comes down to the unexpected, we can plan all but for so much, but the unknown of not knowing when this is going to come to an end is scary. And it's scary for the parents. It's also scary for kids too, because parents are starting to have real life conversation with their children, which are making the kids come to school and from the district on down to the schools, we're now becoming this even more of a support. We're already a support for those students, but as well as for their families. I got a call on yesterday, um, in regards to providing some, assistance on where to get some resources for a family who is impacted by the government shutdown. So yes, it's definitely it's a great deal of concern. Definitely.
Are there when we're talking about the kids, because just to kind of it's hard to even explain, right? We teach kids how to agree, conflict resolution, and all the things, and we're seeing people that we've elected who can't even do that.
Right.
And like you said, it's scary. So how are you all kind of seeing where it's impacting any type of scholastic or academics? Are people or is the stress any way where some kids are coming and asking you like what's going on? Is it,
Mm-hmm.
are we going to get evicted because somebody can't pay their house. We can't get someplace. I talked to somebody who works at a school as well, and she was just saying how the child didn't want the food that was being donated because it wasn't what they were used to, right? It's not what they're used to
Mhm.
eating, but it's hard to explain to an elementary school child that that's all we have right now. Are you
Right.
all kind of seeing any of that too?
Yes, it's definitely a shift in just a daily living routines as well as lifestyles, and it's causing an increase in anxiety and increase in stress. And one of my main concerns is because of what's going on right now and the unknown and what's to come, it's causing people to have thoughts of wanting to self harm. So
Absolutely.
that's unfortunately in this world, this is where we at because of our um, current president and folks that's in place within our government system. So
Absolutely. And that's an indicator, not an indicator, but financial issues have a huge role when we are looking at behaviors of self-harm and worse. So that's something even not even thinking about, and I'm sure you'll cover in your episodes, but what does that look like? Or and what is this impact on mental health going to look like a few years from now, right? No one's talking about that because everybody's just trying to survive, literally
right.
trying to survive.
No, I was just thinking out loud. Like I really think it's going to be a period of recovery,
Yeah.
even when the government is back open. It's going to take a while to repair. Think about the people who's living off of credit cards right now,
Yeah.
and you're maxing out credit cards. It's going to take a minute to repair, get your credit back right. Just repair mindset and not live in fear that this is going to happen again. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. So I think it's definitely going to cause people to possibly be on their toes for a while, even when things are back flowing appropriately.
Absolutely. And like you said, saving for a rainy day. Some people's families, I can speak for myself. You know, growing up in a parent household, being a single parent, like sometimes the rainy day is every paycheck because you living from
Everything.
check to check. Everybody has their hand out. Everything is getting more expensive, right? With inflation and everything else, but we're not being given any more money.
Right.
So sometimes saving for a rainy day, when people throw that at me, I'm just like, that's not everybody's existence. That's not everybody's story. Everybody doesn't have the ability to do that. Um, so yeah. Urgh. What about you, Nicole? Are you seeing anything in your community where these impacts are showing up now? Because I think a lot of people are not really getting it. Like, and because there's a lot of people suffering silently. But like today, when I saw miles and miles and miles of people who were needing food, it really kind of highlighted the fact that we have a lot of issue going on that's underneath, just bubbling. And if we don't do something, something's going to have to give. But are you seeing stuff in your community?
Yeah, I have a little bit different perspective. I work really closely with the people, the employees that are responsible for distributing SNAP benefits. And so, having to have the conversations with them about how to communicate what is or is not available. And then we have been able to kind of tap into the community to find alternate resources. And it's unprecedented about how much resources are already tapped out or will not be able to sustain the amount of demand that is coming. And so it's like the slow realization of how detrimental this is, or this is currently. And I do also have to say, in my immediate surroundings, the community is coming together to create their own resources, which is really unique. Unfortunately, it just takes time. So I'm seeing like community gardens coming together. Like my specific neighborhood has chosen to like divvy up the vegetables. So you do the cucumbers, you do the tomatoes, you do the potatoes, those different kind of community gardening type things. But again, it takes time for those things to grow. It's not an immediate thing. And then you have the bakers. So I am, unfortunately, yes, this is a very negative situation and having so many layered impacts on our community. So one kind of bright thing in my specific area and the city that I live in is definitely tapping into the environments that they have land and starting to kind of work the land. It's like reverting back, but we're coming together. The city is actually having grow gardens, and then our individual neighborhoods are, trying to tap into our local resources. And I hope it continues beyond when, the SNAP situation is resolved, because, now we are able to take the control back within ourselves, especially when it comes to like what is being put in the food or what is not being put in the food. When we're growing our own things and supporting ourselves, we're less dependent on other situations. And so I feel like that will strengthen us in the future to, empower us and do us, and that our health would be affected, our mental health would be affected, and then and all of that would be the confidence that we can do it on our own and not open ourselves up to having some other entity or some other governmental whatever take our livelihood and our food from ourselves. You know what I mean? So it is unfortunate, but it is good to see, this being resolved in other ways. And hopefully that's more sustainable than depending on somebody who is so far removed from the reality of their decisions that having our livelihood in somebody else's hands like that is actually really dangerous. So I like the ability to empower ourselves and to provide for ourselves within our own constraints, our own community, our own environments. I would much rather that than the control be in somebody else's hands. So I'm seeing it with the employees, that again, that slow realization of what's happening, and then to be forced to have these conversations with the people who, are rightful to receive these benefits, so they did everything right. They filled out the paperwork, they communicated the things that they needed to, and still not get is painful. And so the employees are definitely feeling the emotional impact, and having to continue to speak and deliver not so favorable news over and over and over is taxing on the employees. And then that can create other stresses within a work environment, and then they take that home, and so on and so forth. So it is multiple layers of effectiveness within my work and then within my community.
Yeah, and it's not just snaps, right? Snap is also WIC. It's also around childcare. There's so many layers of things being impacted. But what I also find interesting is you see people making jokes and thinking that this is funny. And I can't wrap my head around that. Have you all experienced any of that? Like I've literally seen people making TikToks and reels about how open and clear the supermarket is because Snap's no longer here, or this is available now because Snap's no longer here. Have y'all seen any of those?
I
Um,
have seen a few of them, and what really bothers me is also reading the Bible and praising the Lord and
Hmm.
making fun of those in need. I have a hard time seeing where those two connect. And if your faith is really that strong, I'm not sure where in the religious readings, regardless of what religion you are, where that's warranted and encouraged. I thought we were supposed to be kind. And so it does bother me when I see this level of unkindness, especially among community, and it really lacks empathy. And you already know empathy is one of my pillars. And so it is painful to see this happening over and over again, another display of where empathy is not being enacted or received.
All right. And what were you gonna say, Keisha?
I've actually been seeing the opposite. I've seen people making TikToks in regards to what they were going to do to get the food. Like, I'm just going to go
Mm,
right in the store. I'm going to fill my buggy up. And this is how I'm going to take it out of the store, which is not, though I chuckle, it's not funny, but I mean, folks are like, if it comes down to me feeding my kids, I am going to get these items out of your store.
Right.
And that's where it's not fair to store owners either. So it makes the situation even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's crazy. Like I've heard statements like, "Well, they're just gonna have to buy food like the rest of us," and it brings in that conversation of equity and equality, and what is
Mhm.
that, right? And if you know what equity is, then you understand how much that statement doesn't make sense. So when somebody says something that like that to me, I'm like, oh, you're just ignorant. And is there a moment of, do I want to engage in this, or do I have too much on my plate right now? I'll let somebody else catch you down the road. Um, but you're just expressing to me how ignorant you are when you make statements like that. And I wanted to also highlight, we talked about kind of where what we're seeing in our own parts of the country and how it's impacting families, but also Nicole kind of brought in some other things that we can do as a community, and that's that community organizing, right? We want to understand that there is a difference between being performative, right? Performative activism. So making sure you're getting on camera and everything else. But we are more concerned about the sustainability of the organizing. So, not saying you have to go run out and start a nonprofit, but what is it that you can do in your community right now that can help? Like for me on Halloween, I had flyers of all the food banks and pantries, what hours and days they're open and available, mental health resources, and immigration information on a flyer. So when kids were getting candy, if a parent needed that they could pick it up. I also saw some tables of canned goods, fruits, vegetables kind of out when trick or treaters were going through as well. Like I said, going to food banks, I did one this morning. Um, I think too, when you actually do stuff like that, you can see the impact, even if it's not directly impacting you right now, to see how it's impacting so many people is surreal. And I'm a firm believer of just because you're in a place where you're at right now doesn't mean you'll be there tomorrow. You have many people who would have never thought with a federal job that they would be in the situation that they're in. So I'm a firm believer of not pointing fingers and turning your head. If you have a skill that can do something, do that. It doesn't have to be huge, but it's something. So I'm glad you highlighted that, Nicole. And Keisha, when you think about, I know, a hard question for you, not when you think about all the different things you can do, right? If you had to just narrow it down to like one or two things you could do, like if somebody's listening and they're like, I just need some ideas. What are some things you can think about? And I'm chuckling because me and Keisha are always throwing back ideas back and forth. But what are some things you think could be something that's tangible that somebody can say, okay, you know what, that sounds like something that I can do starting today. And Nicole, I'm gonna ask you that same question too. So just be ready.
I would say toiletries, and I know many times when we go to hotels, there's always like little miniature toiletries that we. I know I take my own, and then a lot of time it ends up in the drawer. So maybe one of the thoughts that I've had lately was to do like a toiletry run, like a drive to get items to give to families, as well as I'm a facilitator now for Lean In Circles, which is like for support groups that you can do for adults. You can do it for kids too, but my main focus is for adults. So that's something that you can do, being able to volunteer your time to bring students. Sorry, I'm still on staff and students. Excuse me from work, but bring adults together so that they can talk, especially men. When you get fathers who are the head of the household, think about where you have one parent working and then one at home, and you're trying to figure out like how am I going to take care of my family, especially if that male is working or female, the female could be the head too, that's actually, or they could be the person who's in charge of their household and they work for the government right now and it's shut down, but you still have to go to work. that can be a lot of pressure on your shoulders. So just making sure that there are support groups that's out there so that people can come and talk and then and learn of more resources by gathering together and being a support to each other. So that those are some areas that I'm working in to try to help folks right now.
And that's a really good thing, just to kind of piggyback, especially working next to military installations, where you do usually have one parent, if it is a two-parent home, one parent who stays at home with the kids or works a job just to get out the house, but it definitely is not enough to support a whole household. Or you could have two military connected parents where neither one of you are getting a check, and now you can't get any benefits because, yeah, military people can get SNAP benefits. Absolutely. For people who are like, well, they're military, no, if do your research. I'm not going to harp on it too much longer. It's just
Right.
it pains me when I hear people say things based off of, I really don't know what it's based off of because it's just straight not facts, but that's why we're here to help you all along. But it's scary. It's scary. And as a mother, to think that there might be a mom who's not eating because they need to make sure their child's eating, or when their child's looking at them for something to eat and they just don't have it. But we're supposed to be okay with this. So let me pipe simmer down some. I'm gonna jump over to Nicole. Like, what are some things that you think you could kind of offer for people to think about what they might be able to do today, as like you said, to kind of get working in the community so we don't end up being so dependent and find ourselves in the situation moving forward again.
For me specifically, a lot of my community donations, if you will, are I have a keen ability to listen, right, to validate people's experience and to encourage them that this is not detrimental in changing their perspective on the current situation to be more positive. And so I share my skill and ability to encourage others to kind of look at the things that you're good at is what you can contribute to your community. So whether it be your strength in, helping somebody with their garden, if you have a green thumb, educate the others on how to grow some food, how to pull the resources together. If you are a gossip, go ahead and, use your gossiping ways to share the word, to share what is going on, to share the resources, to talk about it. Whatever your specific gift is what your contribution to uplift the community is and should be. And so if we can like stop for a second, and yes, this is requiring all of us to become more self-aware of the things that we can do naturally and contribute it to the greater good. I think this is the perfect time to do that and not discount yourself to say, because I don't have a monetary amount to give, you have so much more to give to the community than a dollar. Yes, we all can go to the store and buy something to contribute in that way. That's kind of like an easier way of contributing, but then also we have so much knowledge, whether it's books, whether it's how to create a garden, how to grow food, how to make bread, how to create sustainable ways to eat, sustainable ways to travel, sustainable ways to sustain our community that is not in the control of somebody else. And that starts with us. And so the more that we can realize what our skills, ability, and talents are to contribute to the community, and we all have our lane, we're all not going to be great at all things. And so I think that's where we can kind of deep dig into what we have truly available beyond a monetary dollar.
That's awesome. And like we're doing right here on the podcast. And that was one of the reasons why we all wanted to come back in and have these conversations, because we have a platform. We have a platform, and I feel everybody, there's a level of responsibility. If you can do something, then you should do something to kind of get around these things. Like for me, I'm a tech nerd, so I made an app where people can put in their address and find out where the closest pantry food bank is. But because you can go to the foodbank.org website, but also if there's local events going on that might not be on that centralized website. So doing that and sharing that is something that I worked on. And again, do what you have a talent to do. You've been given that talent for a reason, and this might be the season that you need to really kind of lean into that. But just really looking at who's in charge. I think Tuesday for me with the Democratic blue wave during the elections gave me some hope. Gave me the hope that, yeah, we might be on life support right now. This country might be struggling, but there's a heartbeat still here. We are still here. So the ones who are still here, the ones who went out to vote, the people who are energized right now, we need to keep that momentum going because that's really the only thing that's going to get us to the next phase of whatever this is that we're dealing with. We can't stop now. We can't let up off the gas. Yeah, we got a uber cool mayor in New York. Absolutely, we had so many females who were elected in. California did its big thing, so we gotta keep momentum going. We're in the situation that we're in, but that it's temporary. We're not going to stay in it. We're not going to stay in it. So as we wrap up here, we will be going into Keisha's or the Red Queen's pillar next Sunday about mental health. So as you'll notice, we'll have different things that pop up on our Instagram page and everything to kind of give you some support along the way. But our goal is to make sure that what we're talking about here is beneficial for you all. So if there's anything that you're experiencing or going through, shoot us a line, let us know, and we can definitely dig into that. But right now, we are our brothers and sisters keeper right now, if you want to be or not. So we really need to make sure that we are checking on people, checking in on people, making sure that you know what's going on in your community, and B, keep your head on the swivel. I can't not be a criminal. I never say criminal justice because there's no justice in that system, but I can't be somebody who's in that field and not say when societies are experiencing what we're experiencing, there's not an uptick in criminal activity. So make sure you keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you're changing routes, and if you're going out to do things, make sure you're just having awareness of your surroundings. Because when people start to get desperate, like Keisha said, she was hearing conversations of people just kind of storming grocery stores. I'm gonna tell you right now, I will look the other way. If I see anything going on, somebody's getting food, I don't see nothing. My eyesight's real. My eyesight does suck, but I will definitely not see nothing. So if y'all see me out and you about to get some food for your family, I'm turning the other way. I don't go right ahead. So other than that, do you two have any additional things you want to end on, or any even something for a tactic or something for their mental health, or just kind of keeping a positive insight before we wrap up and go into the next week?
I would say be encouraged. Whatever you believe in, I believe in Christ, but I'm not pushing Christianity on anyone. Whatever you believe in, be encouraged. Think positive. I know it's a lot going on, but try to think positive and have faith. Preserve what you have. I would definitely say that. And just we're pretty much all in this together, even if we're not in the exact same place or dealing with the exact same things. We're still in this together as far as trying to help each other. Um, when one hurt, we all hurt, and that's just what it is. And it's just being in hopes that things will change in our government. We'll be prayerful.
And for me, I don't see any way through all this without connection and a togetherness, right? So I feel like we all need to um, move away from the individualistic thinking of, and I truly feel that we can get through this in a we state of mind. And having said that, I want to encourage us all to share our skills and abilities because even though whatever your skill is might seem minimal, there is somebody out there that will need it. And so if you are holding your skills and abilities to yourself and not letting it be known and not speaking on it, then you won't be able to meet the need because they won't know what you can contribute. So share your skills and abilities, come together as a we, and we all can move together through all of this. Once we feel a sense of connectedness, then purpose will come, and I feel like the momentum will take us through. So just remain connected. And isolation is when bad things can happen. And so I want to encourage people to stay connected.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think for me too, I kind of said it, really kind of keep your head on the swivel, know where you're getting your news sources from, be mindful of what's around. And as always, do not leave your home without your ID. All right, you all, thanks so much for being with us as we tackle all this together. And we look forward to connecting with you all next week. Until then, stay safe out there.